Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a strategy that's really changing the game for cannabis and hemp growers. It's all about moving away from constantly fighting pests and instead building a foundation for a product that's truly clean and top quality. So let's just start with a really big question, one that gets right to the heart of all this. Are you always in a battle, fighting off pathogens as they pop up? Or are you creating an environment where they just can't get a foothold in the first place? That distinction, well, it's everything. Okay, first up, let's talk about the old way of doing things. The traditional, reactive approach that, let's be honest, a lot of growers know all too well, along with all the problems it creates. And here's the dilemma, right? When you're only reacting to problems, you get stuck in this never-ending cycle of firefighting. A problem shows up, you hit it with a spray, and you just kind of hope for the best. This whole approach isn't just stressful, it's packed with huge risks. We're talking unwanted chemical residues, devastating crop loss, and the absolute worst for commercial growers, failing those critical lab tests. But what if there was a better way, a way to shift your whole mindset from being a reactive plant doctor to being more of a proactive environment architect? Well, let's explore that huge shift, this modern evolution in growing called integrated plant protection, or IPP for short. So, what is IPP exactly? Well, it's a proactive, sanitation-first strategy, and the key words here are non-toxic technology. It's all about creating an environment that is perpetually clean. The goals are simple, but they are so powerful. Get the best possible plant health and, maybe most importantly, a guaranteed residue-free product. Here's the difference in a nutshell. On the left, you've got the old way, just reacting to outbreaks with whatever chemicals you have on hand. And on the right, you have the IPIP approach, using sanitation through the entire cycle with non-toxic solutions to build an environment where pathogens just can't live. See the difference? It's all about prevention, not just reaction. Okay, so how does IPP actually work in a real-world grow? Well, it's built on 3 core principles that all work together as one complete system. The principles are, number 1, a zero-tolerance approach to sanitation. Number 2, proactive plant protection all the way through the growth cycle. And third, smart monitoring with clear rules for when to take action. Let's dig into how this all works, starting with step 1. So the whole foundation of IPP is zero-tolerance sanitation. This means between every single cycle, you're doing a full environmental purge, sanitizing all your surfaces, your benches, floors, walls, everything. It also means keeping your water system clean, flushing those irrigation lines to get rid of biofilm, algae, and nasty root rot pathogens like pythium. You know, that destructive water mold that just attacks plant roots. And finally, you gotta have a strict protocol for cleaning tools and equipment to stop any cross-contamination in its tracks. The second principle is all about protecting the plant itself, proactively, through every single stage of its life. During propagation and veg, regular sprays can shield those young plants from things like powdery mildew before the spores can even take hold. This protection continues all the way through the flowering stage, and you can even use it as a final wash at harvest to clean off any surface contaminants before you dry. Now, the absolute key benefit here is the safety it gives you during the flowering stage. This is the time when most growers get super nervous about spraying anything on their plants, and for really good reason. But this is exactly where the IPP approach just completely shines. So how is this even possible? Well, the science is actually really simple and clean. The core technology breaks down completely into just water and oxygen. That's it. There are no complicated or sketchy chemicals left behind. And here it is, the big payoff for growers. Because it leaves nothing harmful behind, it is totally safe to use right up to the very day of harvest. This gives you the power to protect your most valuable asset, your mature flowers, without ever risking residue, messing with the taste, or failing a lab test. It is a true game changer. And the final principle is monitoring and action. Look, even with the best sanitation, you've got to be vigilant. This just means regularly scouting your plants, looking for any early signs of trouble. If you do spot something, the IPP solution becomes your immediate go-to treatment. It lets you stop the spread right away without having to reach for those harsh chemicals. So we've covered the principles. Now for the fun part. Let's look at how all this translates into real, tangible benefits for growers, whether you're working indoors or outdoors. All right, check this out. For you indoor growers, the biggest thing is purity and compliance. Zero residue means you pass those lab tests, period. And a clean irrigation system means healthier roots. Now, for you outdoor growers, the benefits are all about controlling the uncontrollable. You get environmental safety, no toxic runoff, and crucial protection against crazy weather that can bring on threats like downy mildew, that fast-spreading mold that loves cool, damp weather. And for everybody, the money and time savings are huge. You're protecting your most valuable crops late in flower, and you're simplifying your whole program with one single, reliable solution. So let's just hammer this point home, because it's absolutely crucial, especially for anyone growing commercially. Zero residue. In today's market, passing those tough lab tests isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a must-have to even get your product on the shelf. An IPP strategy is literally designed to make sure you hit that standard every single time. Let's wrap this all up by looking at what this really means for the future of cultivation. This whole approach represents a brand new standard for what it means to grow clean. Ultimately, bringing an IPP strategy into your operation is about holding yourself to the highest possible standard, a standard of cleanliness, a standard of safety for your customers and the planet, and a standard of total product integrity. And that brings us to our final thought. It's a question I think every grower should really think about. Is your product simply compliant? Just barely scraping by the minimum requirements? Or is it truly clean, from the inside out? The answer to that question could really define the future of your brand.